Hi, this is Daniel Hutchins, and today we're talking about a mega long article discussion from our friends Screen Rant. So today from Screen Rant, we are starting off our discussion about Thor. So Thor's greatest victory was in a drinking contest against the devil. So Thor has won countless victories over the years, perhaps none as impressive or as strange as the time he drank the devil under the table. This was from 2 hours ago. Okay. In decades since Marvel comic debut, Thor has had countless victories over alien threats, distinction-level events, and even other gods. Whether it's through teamwork, guile, or just brute strength, the God of Thunder has almost always found a way to come out on top. One of his most unusual victories, however, didn't require any of those traits. Instead, it was Thor's ability to hold his booze that saw him reign victorious. So in 2014's Thor Annual Number 1, 3 different stories were told across the title character's century-spanning timeline. The third of these stories, titled Young Thor, took place centuries in the past, before Thor was deemed worthy of lifting Mjolnir. Coming from writer CM Punk of WWE and UFC fame, and artists Rob Galorli and Joe Sabino, the story serves as a fun, effervescent divergence from the life-or-death stakes tales often found from Marvel Comics. Okay, but there's more. But related to this article is Naruto versus Thor. Who'd win a comic battle? We're not talking about that. We're talking about someone else. The story sees the eventual king of Asgard centuries in the past at Ye Olde Tavern, where he's already drunk the Warriors 3, Hercules and the Frost Giant, into a stupor. Arriving from the future, Mephisto, the Marvel comic version of the devil, wants to capitalize on Thor's inebriated state to seize control of Asgard. But before things come to blows, it's decided that this confrontation will be settled with a drinking contest. So Mephisto nearly taps after his first sip, but the soldiers on through the next 4 rounds of drinks, each of which is cheeky nod to past Marvel comics. The Gamma Slamma, the Cosmic Ray, the ultimate drunkifier, but it's the 4th drink, Odin's Beard, that spills Mephisto's undoing. The drink is literally ale-soaked hair, and apparently too much for the devil to stomach. Okay. Alright. It's a fun story, but it isn't the only time Thor's considerable drinking abilities have come in handy. In Hercules' Fall of the Avenger, the 2 gods team up to take down a group of frost giants in a drinking contest. Thor's drinking habits are even on display in Marvel Cinematic Universe. In an early scene from Avengers Age of Ultron, at the party celebrating the team's latest victory, Thor is seen sipping a flask of Asgardian booze. When Stan Lee is one of his customary cameos, he asks to try some. Thor resists, saying, "The quaff is not meant for mortal men." But Lee's character is relentless. Thor obliges, and moments later Lee is shown being carried away from the party, slurring his signature Excelsior catchphrase. Okay. Long predated Marvel and Norse mythology, it's said that Thor's drinking is what caused the ocean's tides. The son of Odin's ability to knock one back is quite literally the stuff of legends. Thor may be better known for Mjolnir, but he's proven many times that he's just as deft with a pint of glass as he is with an enchanted hammer. Okay. Next, we're talking about Thor will become the worst version of Iron Man. So Thor, the God of Thunder, is about to go on a path similar to Tony Stark and Marvel's upcoming Heroes Reborn arc. But that is not a good thing. This was from February of this year. Okay. The upcoming Heroes Reborn universe from Marvel was bringing twists to the iconic superheroes. The reveal of the covers from issues 1 through 4 summaries showed that a lot of changes were being made. Marvel heroes are about to take crazy turns, beginning with issue 1. It seems Thor will be living a life Tony Stark would like to forget. Heroes Reborn is an upcoming series that will ask this question, what if the Avengers never formed? It will take some of the most iconic heroes and make them different from what fans have seen before. The series is slated to be in release this year, but related to this article is Doctor Doom is Marvel's next juggernaut. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about someone else. So from the summary from Marvel for the very first issue, had mentioned Thor being a hard-drinking atheist who despises hammers in the upcoming universe. Now, Tony Stark never built the Iron Man armor, yet he still seems to be roundaboutly have had an effect on Thor. Tony has long been known as a party boy billionaire. He throws parties and doesn't shy away from alcohol. From the storyline Demon in the Bottle, Tony Stark's alcoholic ways are so bad, it affects his relationship with the Avengers. At times in the comics, Tony's habit is so uncontrolled, he actually attends Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. These are Tony's lowest points, and now it is Thor's turn to suffer from the vice within the comics as well. Well, that's kind of crazy. The complete summary from the Marvel states, Reborn number 1 will welcome readers to a world where Tony Stark never built the Iron Man armor, where Thor is the hard-drinking atheist who despises hammers, where Wakanda is dismissed as a myth, and where Captain America was never found in the ice because there were no Avengers to find him. Instead, this world has always been protected by Earth's mightiest heroes, the Squadron Supreme of America. Now, the Squadron faces an attack from some of their fiercest enemies, including Dr. Juggernaut, the Black Skull, the Silver Witch, and Thanos with his Infinity Rings. But why is the Daywalker Blade the only man alive who seems to remember that the entire world was somehow been reborn? Thor is no stranger to alcohol. In the MCU, Thor has at least 5 different scenes across the movies he is involved in various beverages. He is seen drinking at Asgard in a celebration, and he drinks his first Earth beer in Thor the Avengers Age of Ultron. He brings alcohol from Asgard to share with the Avengers during the party. He is served a large drink by Doctor Strange in Thor Ragnarok, and in Avengers Endgame he is seen imbibing as a result of depression. He seems slated to become the party boy that Stark has long been seen as. While Avengers Endgame was the character's lowest thematic point, Heroes Reborn number 1 may have proved to be Thor's lowest comic point. Okay. And the book was on sale back in May, and it was written by Jason Aaron with art by Ed McGuinness. Okay. That was just a little bit of some outdated information I wanted to share to you guys about Heroes Reborn. So now we're talking about Carnage. Yep, Carnage is the new king and Black's greatest failure. So, the latest issue of the Extreme Carnage event makes it clear that Eddie Brock, the new King in Black, is to blame for Carnage's current rampage. Now, if you guys remember the King in Black stories from this year, they actually were pretty good. So now, this article contains spoilers for the Extreme Carnage Toxin number 1. Latest issue of Extreme Carnage makes a pointed suggestion that the greatest failure of Venom, the new King in Black, is the return of super symbiote villain Carnage. Recently reborn in the wake of the King in Black crossover event, Carnage has been causing, carnage by seeking out and corrupting his symbiote siblings, the Life Foundation symbiotes. Now, after the death of Null, who is the god of symbiotes, at the hands of Eddie Brock in King in Black number 5, written by Donny Cates and with art by Ryan Stegman, the consciousness of Carnage's host, the serial killer Cletus Cassidy, has reasserted control inside the hive mind shared by all symbiotes, seizing control of the fraction of a symbiote that survived Null's invasion of Earth. Extreme Carnage has depicted the supervillain seeking out his siblings, the 5 symbiotes birthed by Venom during his imprisonment by the Life Foundation, and taking control of them through sheer force of his will. His motive remained unclear, but former Venom and current anti-Venom Flash Thompson were doing their best to hunt down and kill Carnage once and for all. Related to this article is Venom officially just became Marvel's version of Spawn. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about someone else. So, however, in Extreme Carnage Toxin number 1, written by Steve Orlando and art by Geraldo Sandoval and Danilo Esbeiruf, Carnage points out that his current rampage shouldn't really be Flash Thompson's problem. Now, in the issue, Carnage is seeking out his own offspring, Toxin, the 1000th symbiote of the Venom Carnage genealogy. Toxin is currently bonded to the teenager Bren Waters and feels like it's been a lost, found true partner. Now, Toxin's father, however, doesn't share his son's warm and fuzzy sentiments. Toxin finds itself pulled into the hive mind where it's confronted by Carnage, who attempts to take control in the same manner he coerced his siblings. When Toxin has asked how Carnage is still alive after Eddie Brock's attempt to kill him, Carnage replies that Eddie is too busy dealing with the universe's symbiotes to deal with Carnage. Okay, so while it's easy to dismiss this comment as a throwaway remark by the sadistically flippant Carnage, it's also possible to argue that he has a point. And of course, at the end of King in Black number 5, Eddie Brock became the new King in Black, gaining the power to commune with and control every symbiote across the universe. He remarked to Spider-Man that these new powers made him technically omniscient, yet he gave Flash a Toxin and the Life Foundation symbiotes no warning of Carnage's return, and hasn't currently lifted a single gooey space talent to help them. Now, it's true that he's probably busy mentoring his son, the new Venom, but he could have at least dropped them a quick telepathic voice note, or even include to the Avengers. From this perspective, it's hard to see that all the blood that's been spilled by Carnage since his return is on Eddie Brock's godlike hands. Luckily, though, for Toxin, Extreme Carnage Toxin number 1 ends with the symbiote soundly defeating his father's attempts to telepathically control. After Toxin seeks out Anti-Venom and a new symbiote hero, Silence, the trio is united in their goal to do Venom's job and stop Carnage, thus correcting the failure of the new King in Black. To find out what happens, readers will have to pick up Extreme Carnage Agony number 1. Okay. Alright. So now we are talking about something else. We are talking about something from last week. Okay, so something from last week. The MCU's next hero has a secret X-Men connection. So Kit Harington's Black Knight will soon appear in the MCU, and Marvel Comics have just given his character a shocking new X-Men connection. Okay, warning, there are some spoilers for Excalibur number 23. The upcoming Eternals movie will introduce Kit Harington as the Black Knight, and Marvel Comics has just revealed the character has an unexpected connection to the X-Men. Marvel's Eternals movie promises to rewrite the history of the MCU, introducing the powerful group of ancient aliens who have lived on Earth for millennia. It will also feature Kit Harington as the Black Knight, a character older than Marvel itself. So Marvel Comics is always keen on synergizing the comics and movies, and they spent the last year or so retconning the Black Knight's origin and abilities. They revealed the Black Knight is an ancestor of King Arthur himself, presumably meaning the first Black Knight, Sir Percy Ascandia, was Arthur's illegitimate son. Meanwhile, the Ebony Blade has been retconned as a weapon that is an inversion of Thor's Mjolnir, the mystic blade whose power increases in proportion to the unworthiness of the one who wields it. But the latest retcon was particularly surprising, because it seems the Black Knight has a secret connection to the X-Men. Okay, related to this article is X-Men theory. Mutants already existed in MCU and Black Knight can prove it. Inspired by the legends of King Arthur, one of the first Black Knight's greatest enemies was Arthur's son Mordred, who hated his father with a fierce passion. The comics have never heard or been entirely clear about why the gulf developed between Arthur and Mordred. Bettina Howard and Marcus Toast, Excalibur number 23, sees a group of X-Men realize the truth. Transported to the mystical realm of Otherworld, where Camelot now resides, they fight off to what seems to be the agents of King Arthur, and initially bewildered at being identified by the designation Friends of Mordred. Later, the X-Men's ally Megan figures out the truth, if someone didn't know what a mutant was. She observed, what sort of cursed would they believe we were? I think Arthur cast out his own son. Because he is one of us, I think friend of Mordred means mutant. Now, as confusing as that sounds, let me repeat these lines again. Identified by designation, Friends of Mordred, later the X-Men's ally Megan, figures out the truth. If someone didn't know what a mutant was, she observes, what sort of cursed would they believe we were? I think Arthur cast out his son. Because he is one of us, I think Friend of Mordred means mutant. So there you go. I had reset the line that I messed up on. You're welcome. So now, it's a stunning retcon, but one writer, Tina Howard, has been building to since Excalibur number 1. There she has revealed ancient mutants were known as the Witch Breed. In the days of Camelot, believed to be cursed, the book was deliberately conflated many legends of magic and sorcery with early mutants, suggesting the history of anti-magic violence. From the Valais Lich trials of the 15th century, the French legends like the Beast of Gavardon has in part been directed against mutants. Now it seems that Prejudice ran right to the throne of Camelot, and indeed the Camelot's greatest defender, Sir Percy, the first Black Knight. He was inevitably an agent of the anti-mutant bigotry. So there is a witch-twisted irony to this. While Sir Percy of Scandia seems to have been the first Black Knight to have fought mutants, he was not the last. From the 12th century, his descendant Eobar Garrington participated in the siege of Jerusalem and heard rumors of the dark power hidden in the deserts of the fictional land called Aqaba. Now, this place was ruled by the ageless immortal mutant Apocalypse, who became interested in the Black Knight and sent his pawns to test him. Ironically, though, Apocalypse proved far more interested in one of Garrington's allies, Bennett de Paris, who possessed a latent mutant gene and was transformed into an Omega mutant named Exodus. Marvel Comics has teased the modern Black Knight will fight the X-Men ahead of the MCU debut, and it's now easy to understand why. He was the sworn defender of Camelot and King Arthur, and this legendary Quasi-Topia, is being retconned as the stronghold of anti-mutant prejudice. This was also huge news for the movie fans. In fact, as it means the introduction of the Black Knight into the MCU, with Eternals, which could be paving the path to introduce X-Men next. Now, if Eternals does pave the way for X-Men into MCU, that would be very, very awesome. Because after all, we did buy 20th Century Fox, pretty recently. So, it makes sense that we make an X-Men movie in the MCU straight after the fact that we have the movie Eternals. So, right now, I'm just plugging my computer back in so it doesn't die. And right now, the time check is 23 minutes. So I'm going to be doing one more article, and then I'm going to close this video up. Okay. Now we are talking about an article from a couple days ago. Marvel's Hulk just took his most shocking twisted form. Now the Norn Stone has transformed the Hulk into an even more terrifying monster, with the shocking connection to Brian Banner. Okay, warning, there are spoilers for Symbiote Spider-Man Crossroads number 3. The Hulk is about to receive a terrifying transformation that will connect him with his villainous father, and the brand new preview for Symbiote Spider-Man Crossroads number 3. Bruce Banner is taken to the Valley of Flame, and when a group of cavemen tries to feed him to a giant spider monster, the Norn Stone turns the Hulk into a monster that's in his dad's own terrifying image. Now, Symbiote Spider-Man has seen the web swinger transported from the Crossroad dimension alongside the Norn Stone. Spider-Man ultimately encountered the Hulk, who was trapped in dimension and wasn't too thrilled to see his fellow hero. This epic fight between the pair was had, and Spider-Man bonded with the Norn Stone to create his strongest symbiote form to date, to use it to beat the Hulk. However, at the end of their battle, the pair were transported to the Valley of the Flame, where Spider-Man ended up alongside Moon Boy and Devil Dinosaur, and Bruce Banner being picked up by monsters waiting for their next meal. Related to this article is Marvel's new Spider-Man is taking on Miles Morales and Dr. Octopus. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about something else. So in Symbiote Spider-Man Crossroads number 3 by Peter David, Greg Land, Jay Leiston, Frank D'Arma, and VC's Joe Sabino, Spider-Man thanks Moon Boy and Devil Dinosaur for saving him, but is concerned about what's happened with the Hulk. Moon Boy informs him that he did see an immortal man, who was very thin, and that the Killer Folk have taken him. Moon Boy reveals the Killer Folk were likely to sacrifice him to Longlegs, which turns out that might have been a very bad idea. Okay, the photos followed below. Photos followed below. Photos followed below. Photos followed below. As Longlegs shoots his web on an unconscious Bruce Banner, the hero starts hearing voices, that he is about to die. The voice tells him the giant spider is going to eat him, but that is, he uses the Nornstone, he can increase his strength. It suggests letting him out and embracing his true power, as the stone will provide the voice for him. Okay, picture below, pictures below, pictures below. The killer folk were shocked when a terrifying monster emerges from the webbing and introduces it as Brian, Bruce Banner's villainous dad. The creature promises it's going to destroy them all. Hello, my name is Brian, and I'm going to destroy you all. Okay, so as creepy as this picture is, I'm actually going to save it. Just for kind of like the nightmare type feels, I guess, because it looks pretty awesome. Alright, so it's likely the Nornstone is manipulating Bruce and Brian Banner's emergence as a product of the powerful artifact. However, given Banner's recent stories in the Immortal Hulk, where he was in the below place, it's possible this is a new way of him being freed and emerging in his own monstrous form. No matter what brought Banner back, it's bad news for the Hulk. Spider-Man and the inhabitants of the Valley of the Flame, Symbiote Spider-Man Crossroads number 3 is in comic book stores this week. Okay, so there you go, guys. That's just a little bit of some information going almost 28 minutes in this video. If you guys like this content, please hit that thumbs up button. Let me know your thoughts on this comic book related material was. And like always, have a wonderful rest of your evening. Bye.